Season 2, Siege of Winterfell, Match 5. We're back once again with NOA. We've gone up against them before, and they're tough as nails. They had 15 on us this time, which wasn't great. We know from the past that we're fairly evenly matched in a lot of ways, so having those numbers on their side wasn't really what we were looking for. We took the hot springs early, which was nice to keep those numbers up a little bit cheaper. But the armory side, which was stacked for both of us, it just wasn't going anywhere. It was an absolute deadlock. So even the hot springs, you can see here, the two smaller forces were having a hard time getting the advantage over the other. It just, kept going on. The numbers on the NOA side did slowly drop off, so we were making ground there. But they've got a few guys on this side, even though it's a smaller force, that just would not go down. So you can see me here setting up a little marker there for Shutton Wolf. He's got a little group over there on the side that just keeps on pumping. They just refuse to go down. I mean, I stack a bit of tankiness because I do try and be a bit of a soak for the team. I've got the stats to do so and still put on a little bit of damage, but it really didn't seem like I was doing a lot this time. The others did, however, manage to get him down to one team at least, but this is still 53 minutes in. Winterfell was already preparing to open up, but as it was, NOA was already there and secured. They'd locked their northern entry, and so the respawns from our eastern side were flooding there. I probably should have called to hold up a bit and form up before we initiated the combat. But after the last couple of wins, even knowing NOA, I think we just weren't really prepared for how much of a wall they were going to put there. So you can see here, they locked themselves in, they had numbers on their side, and even with the reinforcements in a steady flow, we just couldn't gain the advantage, or not yet anyway. I think, 15 more sort of equates to 45 more teams, which allowed them to have the numbers in the east still to take the hot springs, which they did, and still mount a good force in the centre. The western armory side had taken some losses and were respawning and heading back there. But I have a feeling that NOA redirected to the centre a bit more than we did, and it really paid off for them. We were fighting over objectives and being held up there. And due to the fighting over objectives, we were still putting points on the board. At this stage we're 3,000 up. Even if we don't have majority control, we'd managed to hold on to enough for long enough that we were still in the lead. So our numbers start to sort of take advantage at this point. The reinforcements did slowly wear them down, so we started to push towards WF to try and secure the area for the second spawn. They jumped up in points by dropping that first resource, and so we lost the lead at this stage. It's 15 minutes in, or 17-ish. So, for the first quarter of the match, or third of the match, I was pretty happy with us. But as we took objectives, they were basically mirroring us. So we took the southwest, while they took the northeast. And while we pushed to WF, we weren't quite there quick enough. We still had 5 minutes to hold on, and they'd already regrouped. So we just go into another clash situation, and it just seemed to be the whole match that we were fighting. Which is a lot of fun. As I said, NOA are always a good matchup, win, lose or draw, which, at this stage is looking pretty close to a draw. It's just intense, and so, getting a good win is always good. Fighting hard and having a loss, it sucks, but it happens, and as long as it's a fun match, as long as it's a good opponent, then I don't think you can really be too sad about it. I think really at the end of the day it's about having fun, and this match up is always a lot of fun, so I'm never sad to see him on the other side. So as you can see here, you know, the entire time it's just skills flying, colours flashing, and just intense. Hot Springs came up, so we did a little cheeky take on that, then pushed north to try and cut off our respawns, which they did pretty effectively. They got the resource, which I'm not sure exactly the mechanics on the spawns, but they did get a little lucky on the side that it was on. We hadn't managed to push down to the southern side, so they were able to pick it up and get it across the line once again. I employed a tactic that one of the other alliances earlier in the season did to us, which was to try and cut off their option. At least it was going to force them towards the western side, I hoped, which is where we had more forces. So by taking that southeast outpost, it was designed to direct their movement, and at the same time we were fighting in the southwest. I was fairly well outnumbered here, and they did manage to get it back pretty well straight away. They're really good with their troop movements, and it wasn't really that long from when I arrived to when they had, you know, say 6 or 8 teams, 9 more, rocking up to, you know, kick me out of the area. Luckily I do have some stats, and I think I'm fairly good with the selection of troops, so I was holding on alright, and WF was holding on okay as well. They did manage to get the last resource, so once again they had jumped up, but it seemed to be that each time they did, we would slowly put those numbers back on. We just couldn't get control, however, and so they picked up another. Once again, I moved to deny the drop, but NOA did something which I've seen a few alliances do, and at different times it's really smart, and at different times it can be not such a great option. But with them just not giving us any relief and just keeping on the pressure, it probably wasn't a bad idea at all. It was quite a surprise, but they did move the resource all the way to the south, Greyjoy outpost, and they just held it there. So it really denied us any chance to take the resource again until they decided it was ready for that. We moved to the objectives, and the infighting just, you know, intense and non-stop the entire time. Objectives all over the map were contested in about the same, about the same way, maybe smaller forces than what I'm looking at here, but not by a whole lot. With 55 teams on each side, the armory was still being contested at this stage, which just goes to show that neither side was willing to let go of any objective without putting up a good fight. In saying that, however, they did have the numbers, and so while we were tied up fighting over objectives in the west, they'd managed to pretty well to secure the eastern side. They'd moved all the way up again, and although I did my best to get around the blockades and to take another shot at getting the heal so that we might have a chance to mount enough forces for a final push and a final drop, Sharky picks up the final resource with 3:14 left on the clock, which isn't a lot of time. It was pretty much game over at that point. Once we checked the walk distance or the march distance and timing, we knew it was all over. So GG once again, catch us next time.